Welcome to the Sinical Magazine podcast. My name is Danny Stygion, and I'm the publisher of Sinical Magazine. This is episode number 24. In today's episode, we talk to Mark Clewes of Torture Garden Berlin. Mark briefly talks about his journey into the fetish scene, the history of Torture Garden, and the establishing of Torture Garden Berlin, and his upcoming event in September. Anyway, let's get to it. Can you say your name and briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, my name's Mark Clewes, and I'm the founder of Torture Garden Berlin.
Mark, how did you discover the fetish and BDSM scene?
I would say partly by accident, but obviously I went looking for it. I went to my first club in October 2000, so 24 years ago, and it was Torture Garden. It was Torture Garden in London, in a church in Brixton, and it was a Halloween event.
Oh, wow. Can you briefly talk about the history of Torture Garden?
Yeah, Torture Garden was established in London in October 1990. So it's next year, it's 35 years old. And I think there was, as I understand, there was 50 people at the first event. But if you hear the stories, I've heard at least 200 or 300 or 400 people say that they were at the first event.
All right.
Yeah. So it grew very, very quickly. Until what it is today. It's the world's largest fetish art BDSM club. It's on 3 continents at the moment, 3 different continents. Just Australia and Africa, I think. It doesn't do events.
But the London one is one of the bigger ones?
Yeah, London hosts approximately 20 events per year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
so, yeah.
How'd you get involved in, can you talk about Torture Garden Berlin?
Yes. It was, I think it was March 2016. David Bowie had died earlier that year, and I went to see where he lived in Berlin. He lived in Berlin for about 3 years. And on my way back to a place in Berlin where a guy called Christopher Isherwood lived, he's the guy who the theatre production Cabaret is based on his books, Goodbye Berlin. He was in Berlin in the mid-1930s, just at the rise of fascism, and he left, and he was there because he was a homosexual from the UK. And during this kind of walk between these 2 locations, I came across this amazing venue called Metropole. And knowing Torture Garden really, really well, and the venues that it used in the UK over the previous years, and it was getting bigger and bigger to the point where it was hosting parties with 2,400 people on consecutive nights. So that was the capacity of the venue. They could have sold out more, but the capacity restriction restricted it to 2,400 people. So it was this amazing location, and I just thought Torture Garden should be there. The way that Torture Garden operates, because each city has its complexities, Torture Garden would link in with promoters that operated in that city, and that's where it kind of started. So from 2016 to 2019, this amazing venue that I found was closed. And we eventually went ahead in 2020. And it was 13 days later in Berlin. It went down to complete closure because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was a really successful first event.
How'd that first event go as far as like the turnout?
Yeah, there was 1,500 people there.
Oh, wow.
which was the capacity of the venue. So it created a lot of FOMO with being in Berlin with the European Torture Garden crowd, and particularly London. There was over 300 people came from London to Berlin for that event, which I thought was kind of okay. That's an obvious thing for people to do, but it isn't so obvious for so many people to travel to such a fetish event, certainly post-pandemic anyway.
When I first started doing fetish balls in Texas back in the 2000s, we had to go out and put flyers on the streets. So a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
How do you think things have evolved, and how do you get the word out on your events these days as far as promoting?
It's social. It's a social media via the internet, but it's a constant battle with Meta closing things down. Facebook was really good, and now it's absolutely awful. It's picking up keywords and things like that, and you can have your accounts closed down very, very easily. So we use a newsletter, and we collaborate obviously with different people who promote what we're actually doing. But I think the newsletter is probably one of the most successful things. So obviously we have a website too that people can visit. Once you get the word out to a certain degree, word of mouth will work within the communities, because the communities are talking and they have different forums, and so it's basically momentum. It could go either way. If you have people saying that they're coming, they can make it, that will kind of cascade like a domino effect, and you'll get more and more people showing interest. If there's some reason why people are saying oh yeah, but that clashes with a different event, and it can go the opposite way as well. So people starting to say, oh, I can't make it, seems to then have an impact on other people saying, well, maybe I can't make it, or maybe next time. So you're kind of vulnerable to those kind of things. And I think there's a lot of events around now, and in lots of different places. There's lots of things that kind of threaten what I would describe the fetish scene. It's this kind of new defined kink scene, which covers lots and lots of different types of parties and lots of different types of events. So in some ways, the market, especially in Berlin, is a little bit saturated.
Right. And for someone who hasn't been to Torture Garden in Berlin, what can someone expect to see at an event like this?
Well, the unique feature of Berlin is it's a city that potentially has the least restrictions on what you can actually do, how long you can do it for, and who you can do it with. So for someone coming from the States, they would find it quite surprising, for want of a better word. Equally, if you kind of flew 20 or 30 people over from Berlin to the States, it's about expectation. So their expectations probably be that they could do most of the things that they could do in Berlin, and they would quickly find that there's basically no way you can do that in certain venues due to licensing restrictions, and there's no way you can do it for as long as you want to do it. My understanding is the events in certain parts, I know each state is different, but there's strict licensing laws that things have to finish. In Berlin, it's not uncommon for events to go on for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we have to wrap ours up in like 2 a.m. in Texas.
No, our parties, Torture Garden is different. So Torture Garden, we have to kind of cater for a certain demographic, which is people who tend to like to come out earlier. But if you're looking at a Berlin typical kink scene like the Kit Kat, Berghain, those types of very, very much Berlin audience or Berlin clubbers, they're not starting until 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people need to experience it, because people tell you about it and you're just like, oh, you're just telling a story. It's not. That isn't how it possibly could be. It's not uncommon to go to a club called Berghain on Sunday. Like, when someone first suggested I go out on a Sunday night, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. And you go out on a Sunday night, and sometimes you can't get into this club because there's 1,500 people in it, and you needed to have been there on the Saturday to get a stamp to get entry on the Sunday night.
Oh, wow. Is it a mixture of like playstations and like performances, like DJs? Because I haven't been to Torture Garden events.
Okay, so Torture Garden focuses. The format in each country is the same in regards to the production. There needs to be an element of fashion, so there's a fashion show. There needs to be fetish performers, body art performers. So on the main stage, you will see at least 3 or 4 performances plus a fashion show with international performers. So it just isn't performers, these are international performers. So again, it's the production costs are very high for our events. They need to be to attract, we're convincing people from, I think there's 15 people coming. I'm looking at our ticket sales already. There's 15 people coming from the US. Okay, they might not be in the US because we see where their credit cards are kind of coming from.
Yeah.
But it's not uncommon to get 20 or 30 people to come from the States to the events. So you can imagine the cost involved in that. So they've got to have something special waiting for them that they can't find back home. When they come over to either to Berlin or over to London. So yeah, we have DJs. The music tends to reflect the music which is most kind of common in that city. So in our main arenas, we use something called house tech quite often. But the older demographic of fetishists obviously like their old goth, their 1980s, the post-punk, all those types of bands. So we have an alternative form of music to kind of what people are actually dancing to. And with our productions in the main arenas, the music stops and the show comes on, and the show has music, the performance has music and things like that. There's variations of events which the music keeps going and the performers have to fit in with whatever the music is being played. We're not like that. We are really quite theatrical in our approach to things.
And is this a multi-day event?
Sorry?
Is it a multiple day event?
No. No, our events will go on. We start at 9 p.m. and we will finish at 7 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, but when we're in Berlin, we have quite a few supporting events. So they're not branded as Torture Garden, but they're official Torture Garden events to really provide an opportunity for people to have things to do when they're coming to the city if they don't really know the layout of the city. So we kind of, in order to engage people and to get people to meet up, we offer smaller events as well.
And what are those smaller events like?
They are just smaller, more intimate fetish type parties, really.
Okay.
In Berlin, it's quite easy because often the venues are kink venues. They have dungeons, kind of in situ. They have dungeons in situ in a lot of the clubs or the kinky clubs. So you've got a different way where, for example, in London, you're hiring out a venue and the venue doesn't really have anything kink orientated. The venue's used for a multiple of things, just like Metropole is. But in Berlin, you can hire places for 200, 300, 400, 500 people, and they will have dungeons in situ because they're used as kink venues frequently. That's what they're actually known for.
And can you tell us about this next event that you have coming up in September and how people can buy tickets?
Yeah, they can go to okay, the event coming up in let's not rush to trying to sell people tickets or convince them on the ticket front. Okay, so in September, it's on the 7th of September at the venue called Metropole. The performance is Dusty Wax, and she is from Italy, and she's a dark burlesque performer with fire and sharp objects. We have a really famous art collective called Suck It Off. They're from Poland, and they are celebrating their 30th anniversary with us. So again, those guys are quite dark too. We have a fashion show by someone who interestingly uses recycled products, often recycled rubber from things like tires, and that company is called Broke Boutique. And we have this amazing making his debut at any of the Torture Garden events with this amazing German guy that I saw 2 years ago, and I've been able to get him, and he's called Sebastian Stamm, and he's a Chinese Pole performer, and it's very difficult to describe how amazing he is, but the things he does is just defies gravity, just defies logic, and it's just like wow. Our shows must have a wow factor. That's what keeps people coming. Our audience is a major part of our events. We have quite strong dress codes. We encourage people to really submerge themselves into what they're doing. Outfits don't have to cost a lot of money. They just have to be creative. And this is basically why Torture Garden has probably been successful for the last 34 and a half years, is its audience and the effort they put in and their expectation of other people. So there's an expectation that we let people in that comply to the dress code. We have an awareness team because etiquette and behavior, we get very few problems at TG events in London, in Berlin, kind of tempting fate by saying that. But the crowd is very respectful. You can also expect we have a fully equipped dungeon, which is quite large. We have it. You can play anywhere in the club, and you can play to really within the strength of your limits. But we also have dedicated areas like couples rooms that we only allow couples to be in, and those areas are monitored. Our dungeons are monitored as well. So the safety of our customers is something that is high on the agenda, and we've seen this increasing over a period of time on the kink fetish scene. There's been more and more people expressing a desire for things to be more monitored, more aware, being cautious about who you let in. And as we were suggesting earlier, as things have become more internet based, it's great, but basically your doors have been thrown open, especially if you're selling online tickets, which brings me to the next point. You can buy tickets online. Go to our website at www.torturegarden Berlin, and that will take you to a ticket link. You can also see us on Instagram. Again, Torture Garden Berlin is on Instagram. We're on Facebook too. Torture Garden Berlin on Facebook. Yeah, we're we're in lots of different places.
To follow up on something you mentioned, I think it is really important to have people monitoring stations, so that's really good. And when people don't comply with your dress code, what happens like at the entrance or the door?
they would get turned away.
Okay. And if they change, they could come back?
Yeah, our objective is not, yes, definitely. Our objective is not to turn, we have door monitors, and we've Torture Garden, going back to the days of London, has always had door monitors or door bitches, whatever you want to call them. And their objective is obviously to ensure the right types of people come into the club with the right types of attitude. Back in the days, as you were saying, in the flyer days, people wouldn't often know what they could wear or where they could get it from or anything like that. Now, today, people don't necessarily have the same excuses. There's all the various websites. They can email us, they can send us pictures, which they do, of their outfits. We send out lots of messages. A lot of our social media posts about outfits, what you need to wear. Before you purchase a ticket, you have to tick certain boxes saying you've read that it's a dress coded event, and it describes what you can wear and what you can't wear. So yeah, a lot of effort or importance is placed on the outfit. Now, like I mentioned slightly a few moments ago, objective is not necessarily, we're inclusive, and it's how you stay exclusive as well, which is quite important. So sometimes if there's a few people there, we will get people to mix and match what they're wearing, so someone meets the criteria. Sometimes we know our audiences quite well, really, and we talk to people, so we just don't turn people away. Like, that's the culture of a lot of Berlin clubs. It's just like, 9, go away. They don't give you an explanation. So we will engage with people, and if it's clearly their first time and they seem to be with a group of people or a partner or a friend, we will be slightly lenient and just say to them, look, okay, it's your first time, but look what everyone else is wearing, blah, 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 blah. And we will show a little bit of discretion on letting people in, but we don't allow fabrics like cotton. So if a lot of your outfit is made from cotton, so like wearing a normal black suit, or you can't wear t-shirts, things like that, black t-shirts or t-shirts or
sneakers, jeans.
The dress code is relatively easy to follow. You can wear basically nothing and come in. It's just we're finding, certainly in London with guys, they were finding the cheapest things to wear often was camo, or going to an Army and Navy store and kind of going down this so-called military route, which they hadn't really gone down a military route. They just got some kind of khaki trousers and said they were military. They didn't have a cap or any other kind of things that would suggest it was any kind of military outfit. And then we had things like, when Lycra came out, people wearing these Lycra legging type shiny fabric things. Often there's a link between bad dress and bad behavior, but you can't say that across the board. There's some well-dressed people who can behave badly too.
Yeah. Well, I know in some of the events I've been to or been involved, some people will get in wearing like jeans and sneakers and a t-shirt, and it will upset the crowd. That's gone out of their way to get dressed up. So I think dress code is really important.
And it's like you've just mentioned, the crowd gets a bit uppity, quite rightly, if you let your standards drop or slip, or some people have come, if it's Halloween or Christmas time, you can see them gone down the kind of fancy dress route, and it can be a little bit tacky.
Yeah.
For want of a better word. Yeah, and you see your crowd going, why have you let this person in? I think we let a guy in a Santa Claus outfit. We just had one guy in a Santa Claus outfit, and I was just like, he wants to wear a Santa Claus outfit. If there's 20 of them turned up, I'd be concerned, but we've just got one Santa Claus.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have to watch people. Doesn't happen. This has kind of been stopped now. There was times when if someone in the media got themselves into trouble, that people could, attracted bad media coverage, they could dress as that character or something like that,
Right.
which we discourage. Yeah, we also discourage as well any form of fascist or offensive military uniforms now, which wasn't with Berlin. That's always been the case. You could not wear anything, but in the UK, in fetish clubs, you could wear, back in the 90s and the 2000s, you could wear an SS uniform as being part of your fetish outfit. But that's one of the changes we've seen over the years. We've discouraged this type of outfit or costume, as you like to call it.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. One of my most strangest experiences, and then I found it to be quite often, is some of the people wearing the SS uniforms were actually Jewish. So that was because I was actually speaking to a guy. This would have been in the early 2000s, and it was just like, well, what would you, how would you? I didn't have a strong feeling either way. We had a conversation for quite a while, and this came up, an hour or so in the conversation. It was just like, well, in terms of outfits, how do you think a Jewish person would see you wearing this outfit? And he's saying, "Oh, you're asking how, as a Jewish person, I feel about wearing the outfit." And it was like, "What?" It was real. It was real one of those ones where, like, okay, this is a bit of a head play. This one, yeah. And then it was something that for a while I kind of looked out for, or spoke to people, or kind of was curious about. Was this a one-off, or was this something that was going on? And it was certainly around, but now we wouldn't really let anyone in wearing those well, Berlin, you get arrested.
Well, yeah, I could imagine. No, I think it's definitely a good idea to not allow those type of outfits.
Well, and obviously at the moment, 5-6 years ago, a lot of people wear Russian outfits coming into the fetish clubs, and obviously, again, sign of the times is you can't wear these types of outfits either.
Yeah, definitely not right now.
No.
So I've never been to Europe. It's on my bucket list to visit Europe someday, and I definitely would like to check out a Torture Garden event in my lifetime when I'm there. So I hope the event goes well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
I appreciate the time talking to you, and your persistence with my poor knowledge of information technology.
I struggle with the same thing. So
yeah, it's a man of a certain age for me, anyway. Yeah, I'm just like, I prefer to talk to people face to face, and then But hey, it's great that we can talk. Yeah.
From Texas to Berlin, but thank you.